Girl, don't act like you forgot. Don't let the 50-inch bust down forget where you came from. The bobos, the beads, the cornrows, all of us lost a couple edges. Just a few in our lifetime.
This is a Brooklyn-bound L train. The next stop is
Welcome to She Stays Chattin'. My name is Sydney, your host for the day, and as always, we're here to take our L's with grace. This is a place where we learn and grow every day. And so today, we're going to talk about hair, okay? Listen. We'll get to my hair in a second. Hair is such a really important dimension of Black womanhood, Black identity in any, whether you yourself identify as a woman, as a femme presenting person, non-binary. If you grew up in a household where they was cornrowing it back, you sat on top of the counter with your head dunked into the sink, okay, neck looking like this, okay, you already know what I'm talking about. It's a beautiful thing in a way how we all share among, I'll speak for myself, as a Black woman, how we share this communal cultural experience of, taking care of our hair, the ways in which we interact with our families through our hair, whether it was your mother, your brother, your cousin, your grandmother, whoever, taking care of your hair. I do think it's important to discuss, however, how this cultural experience can end up translating into some very binding expectations. I'm not going to dive too deep into all the isms because if you don't know, you got to Google it. But we are all familiar with texturism, colorism. We all know about the 4A, 3A, C, B, Z, X, Y, Z, okay? Like all these conversations and all this criticism about the kinks, the coils, the texture of our hair. My experience was a little bit different than, the average Black girl. My mom never permed my hair, which I'm so grateful for. That's not the mainstream experience. And regardless of me not having my hair permed, the whole world told me that that's what my hair needed to be. Whether it be you're in middle school and you look around at the other girls around you and you're like, my hair isn't straightened. I don't have perm. Why am I different from everybody else? At a very young age, we are taught that the way our hair grows out of our head, it has to be tamed. It's something that has to be controlled. It's not something that's intrinsically beautiful. And gratefully, as we grow older, especially in like my generation, we're having more conversations about how that's so deeply wrong and deeply hurtful, especially when pursuing a journey of self-love and love in its most natural form. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge where some of this good hair, bad hair, conversation rhetoric comes from, especially generationally, from, our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, really from a place of survival, with the history of slavery, with the history of Jim Crow, with, Black women trying to enter the workplace and being told that not only do you not belong here, but neither does your hair. It's almost like a generational curse, being taught to hate your hair or being taught that your hair is something that needs to be altered for the sake of survival. I think it's almost powerful that we're able to release that burden. How did I break free from that mindset? I have to say that like the early 2010s was a great time to get into the natural hair community. If you were there, you already know. YouTube was the place to be, honestly. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I love Natural 85. Shout out to you, girl. Love Natural 85. Loved all the, Black women with textures that looked just like mine. And that's not to say the natural hair community is perfect. And I won't dive into that because there are plenty of other YouTubers that dive into that, okay? It's not perfect, and it has been infiltrated by capitalistic intentions. We're not going to get it twisted. However, for what it was back then, it was a very important time in our lives as, especially as a teenager, just growing up trying to figure out how to take care of your hair. I went to boarding school for high school, so I was kind of like picked up and dropped off in this predominantly white space. Not to mention that I literally just had nobody to do my hair, so I kind of seeked out YouTube to find new creative ways to express myself through my hair. I might throw in a couple pictures here or there, but y'all could tell me nothing, okay? Like, I thought I was the cutest thing since sliced bread, okay? I'm very grateful for having YouTube, for having other friends, black girls on campus, among the three of us. I'm very grateful to have had them to also be on this journey with me, to bounce off ideas, to, if I did my little wash and go, someone to hype me up and say, hey, I see what you did, or what products did you use? It was a little community of its own, and I'm very grateful for that, because when you are really entrenched in a microcosm of a world with a lot of people that don't look like you, it can be very scary, very isolating, especially at that time during your teenage years, because you're trying to figure out, who am I? Who am I in relation to other people? And a lot of comparisons can brew insecurities. And so you start to wonder, well, why doesn't my hair look like hers? Or I can't just roll out of bed and brush my hair and walk out the door. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's not supposed to be that way, because I'm me, you're you. I wouldn't want to be anybody else. I think taking care of my hair almost became a practice of rebellion in a way, because I refused to put it away. Like, I refused to hide my hair for the sake of other people's comfort. I refused to let some random person touch my hair and be like, oh no, it's fine. No, it's not. Don't play with me. Like, with every style, with every new technique that I found, it almost felt like an arsenal, like a weapon in my arsenal to, be me boldly. And I think I still carry that a little bit in how I choose to take care of my hair, show off my hair, even with where I work now. Like, I mostly work with people that don't look like me. And so I, in no capacity, want to participate in respectability politics and what good hair, bad hair, professional hair, what that even looks like. It's sickening. I fervently refuse to subscribe to the ideal that I need to align myself with Eurocentric beauty standards in order to be deemed worthy or smart enough to be in this space. Like, it's just deeply rooted in racism, texturism, colorism, etc., classism. Because of that, I'm a Zoomy regardless. I was like the Afro girly. I didn't let nobody touch my hair. I used to do braids, twist outs, bantu knot outs, like anything and everything under the sun. I was deeply in love with every single strand in my hair, and I was deeply in love with the versatility that my hair offered. However, something about locks. It's like whenever I did a faux locks hairstyle, something about it always felt right. I would always say, oh, one day, maybe one day. But at the same time, though, I was scared of the commitment. In my head, I thought, oh my God, what if I wake up one day and I'm like, I don't want my locks anymore? Oh my God. Now I have to go bald. Like, which ties into, the foundations of beauty and hair, and how if your hair does not look right, according to whatever your definition of right is, if your hair doesn't look right put together, it somehow, takes away from your sense of beauty and, your sense of worthiness in the world. I had to sit back and think to myself, Sydney, what are you afraid of? Like, what are you really afraid of? Commitment? Think about all the things that you've committed to in your life so far and how they've, for the most part, been fruitful. Even if it's something that you don't actively have in your grasp right now, you learned something from it. It added another dimension to your core. That was the first thing I had to think about. I also had to realize that how much longer am I going to allow fear to control my decisions? Fear of the unknown, fear of lack of control. But that's where the growth happens. That's where the evolution happens. And at the same time, that's the kind of person I want to be. So it's like, why am I allowing this fear to hold me back? And then the third thing I had to really address was the antique idea that your hair defines your beauty, because there's so many other aspects of myself that contribute to my beauty, that contribute to my value. And to think that the literal waste that comes out of my scalp is somehow a marker of all of me, it's kind of crazy. It kind of simplifies beauty as to something that's more fickle. That's not to depreciate the importance of hair, because my hair is important to me. However, I kind of had to check myself and remember, being a beautiful Black woman does not mean that I have to be in 100% control of my hair, if that makes sense. It doesn't mean that I have to make sure it's in tip-top shape, pristine all the time. I'm human. I don't know what my future holds for me. Like, health issues happen, and I don't want my entire sense of self to go crashing down because my hair changes. Self-image and sorry, me being nosy. One's sense of the self and self-confidence is way more complex than that. But putting it into extremes is what helped me to get over that hump of fear. Even though locks sound really final, they're not. Before I got my locks, I really sat down and thought to myself, okay, Sydney, like, you get these locks now. Let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're like, okay, you don't want them anymore. I'm mentally prepared to cut them off. Now, granted, I know that you could comb them out now, but at that time, I was like, okay, Sydney, you're committing to this because this is all a part of the journey. I remember when I got them, I just knew it was the right decision, like off rip. But then I will say, so when I got my locks styled, I got 2-strand starter locks, right? They were like 2-strand twist. And they were put into this like barrel rolls that went to the back of my head. And at first I was utterly in love. However, within like a week or two, I started to go through a dip in my self-confidence because I felt like the hairstyle made me look very masculine in a way that I was not comfortable with. Rather than taking that as a sign like, oh my God, this isn't meant to be, I kind of allowed myself to sit in it for as long as I could and say, and just acknowledge my feelings like, okay, like this is a extreme of masculine energy that you're not comfortable with, but now you know. I would have never known otherwise. Then I was able to take that into consideration with every retwist after, like, okay, I like styles that are more feminine, so that I can feel more comfortable in my skin. And I remember when I took down that first hairstyle, my hair looked like little spaghetti noodles. And I was like, oh my God, how in the world am I going to make locks off of these little pieces of ramen that are coming out of my scalp? And here we are. It's magic. It's honestly magic. And I took the time to actually really reflect on what I've learned through my locks. I'm going to share a couple points with my little journal here. Side note, I really low-key love journaling. I don't do it in a formal way because routines just don't work for me. But I enjoy journaling when I feel called to do so. Sometimes I'll just write whatever's on my mind. Sometimes I'll write something that's more aligned with scripting. If you don't know what scripting is, essentially, it's kind of like you're writing your future into existence, almost as though you're writing a script for a play of what, a moment that you want in your future life. Sometimes I kind of make a pseudo prompt based on what I want to write about. So for this journal entry, the prompt, you could sort of say, was, through my locks I learn. Through my locks I learn trust, to trust the process, to uphold my faith in myself. Greatness will realize itself in due time. The beauty of evolution, to think that a year ago my hair looked vastly different. Now my strands are fortified, strong, thick, full. I get to keep all of me, always. And yet she is so fragile, requiring meticulous attention. Water and oil, no extra baggage. Release of control. Self-love against all odds. because I refuse to hate myself in the meantime. And that line, let's talk about it. Let's talk about that line because hold on, because I feel like we could talk about this in the comments. I feel like a lot of these fads and trends on social media lean way too heavily on self-hate to be successful. Let's talk about, for example, exercise, losing weight, fitness. How many of these fads, these trends, these influencers that create content to encourage you to go to the gym and get fit, how many of those messages are motivated by a level of self-hate, disgust, discomfort, a lack of self-love? Like, I find it so difficult to find influencers that are promoting their message from a place of love. Like, yeah, I'm losing weight not because I hate my body, but because I love my body and I want to be healthier. And health looks like moving my body, allowing my body to use its muscles, allowing my body to be flexible, to have endurance rather than looking at a number on the scale. And so you see these before and after pictures and it's like, wow, she looks so much happier in the after picture. And I'm tired of that. And that's not to invalidate the experience of people who not feeling comfortable in their body and their skin was a motivator. That's not to invalidate that experience. However, when it comes to trends and fads like unbig my back, it's like, it's almost like an expectation that you had to dislike yourself to some degree in order to get to your destination. And I don't like that. And that's the same way I felt about my locks. It's like, I refuse to hate my locks in their little short phase, in their ramen noodle phase. Like, I refuse to hate myself in the meantime. Like, I refuse, and that applies to everything in life. When it comes to your goals, when it comes to things you want to accomplish, when it comes to that ideal version of yourself, it's like, you have to give your current self grace and you still have to give that current self love because you deserve it intrinsically. Period. Once I had shifted that mindset, things really started to change for me in my day to day. Rather than, looking forward to a version of me that doesn't exist yet, I'm able to love the current version of me that's trying. So I had to take a moment to share that. But trusting the process is so important. Trusting the process. You just gotta trust the process with everything in life. With my hair, just knowing that everything will come together. Ooh, gosh, my laptop is dying. Can I plug this in somewhere? I'm tired of this happening. Hold on. In taking care of your locks on a day-to-day basis, I only use water and oil. In creating the line, water and oil, no extra baggage, the point is that, we have to stick with what works. And the extra gunk, because when you use too much product on your locks, it builds up. And I'm thinking of that song, Bag Lady. Y'all didn't know I could sing. I'm thinking of Erykah Badu talking about no extra baggage, nothing extra on the locks, nothing extra on the shaft, nothing extra on our back to weigh us down. Yeah, I learned that. Okay, like another thing that I actually learned through growing my locks is kind of orienting myself in my own queer identity. Because at the same time that I was growing my locks, I was in my first queer relationship. There's a lot of overlap between growing my locks and growing into my identity as a Black queer woman. The concept of reinvention, the concept of divesting from binaries, from loving yourself, loving another person so boldly, so passionately, against all odds when other people tell you otherwise. That's another thing I really learned through my locks, and I still carry that with me as I navigate having locks and also being queer. So, final thoughts. First of all, this is a shameless promo to get locks. I think hair serves a different purpose for different people. I know that it is our right as human beings, as descendants of our ancestors, to transform the ways we use our hair to things that are within our control and within our consent. If you want to perm your hair, perm your hair. If you want to lock your hair, lock it. If you want to cut it all off, buzz it off, okay? I have seen some girls rock being bald it'd be so fire. Like, I just got a big forehead. Like, I think there is such a beautiful freedom in doing whatever you want shamelessly. It just warms my heart when I see another Black woman, Black femme person in the street just rocking their hair, doing whatever they want. Like, it just warms my heart because I feel like we fought so hard to have that. I think the most important thing is that all the decisions you make for your hair are rooted in self-love. I think that's the most important thing, and that's something that I hope that we can all continue to do. On that note, I'm actually gonna go wash my hair because my scalp, she crying a little bit. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on all my socials, and comment down below, what has your natural hair journey been like, or just your hair journey period? How have you been able to, orient yourself in your identity through your hair or without your hair? What are your thoughts on it? I'd love to hear down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye! I just wanna take it out of town and look around and say